This whole conversation is incredible. I've had goosebumps like 37 times already. We have talked about grief on this show a lot. And I have to give you so much credit because your perspective that you are bringing is probably the most well-rounded toolbox for how to process through grief that I have ever heard.
Welcome back to the why of it all.
Hey guys.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Yes.
This is our first time recording in 2026.
Yeah.
So we are so excited and we have such an amazing guest today. Marcia Earhart is a certified coach, experienced mediator, and founder of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, a nonprofit that serves those grieving by providing resources for hope and healing. Her own journey is profound. Having survived the loss of 2 sons and 17 other close losses by age 18, Marcia channels unimaginable pain into practical hope for others. She's equipped with brain and mental health training, speaks nationally, and leads a heart-focused ministry combining faith and therapeutic tools for real healing. Marcia's book, Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief, stands as a gentle companion for anyone searching for meaning after loss.
This is going to be such a relevant conversation for
Isn't
us. I'm
it?
really excited about it. So without further ado, we welcome to the stage Miss Marcia. Hello, welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Yes.
We're really excited to have you. Absolutely.
We're happy to have you back.
Gina and I have both experienced loss, profound loss in our life, and it has certainly contributed to the trauma that we have both spent many years working to heal from, and probably the impetus is really ultimately for this podcast.
True.
The healing journey that we went into with intention. Those losses for us were really several of the biggest things that we experienced in our life. So we're definitely going to resonate and relate quite a lot with what you have to say today.
Good. Well, I mean, I think everybody has experienced some type of loss, but I don't know that everybody recognizes the losses as they come.
So true. So true. So why don't we start at the beginning, Marcia? Tell us about your story, because it sounds to me, obviously, having experienced 17 losses in your life, that it's quite a story. And we like to highlight what you've been through because it makes what you are doing with it and the reference points you gain from your experience to be able to help others that much more profound. So start us at the beginning.
Yeah. So grief has always been a part of who I am. The first loss in my life was at 3.5 years old. And even though that did not define me, it certainly redefined me because I asked an awful lot of questions from that point on. And I did have 17 losses by the time I was 18 years old that were really traumatic losses when I look back in scope of things. But because my parents did such a great job in teaching me how to grieve, I really learned how to walk through that process without it becoming attached to me and really becoming a spirit of grief. And I didn't even count past 18 years. My assignment was just to go back and look at the first 18, how many losses I had. But I feel like we are set up for our callings. And I believe I was set up for my calling. And so
Gina and I talk about that often.
Yes. Yes. And I do believe if we're willing to allow the situations we go through, it really can produce such fruit within our lives. And this has produced such fruit in my life. As I got older and I did go to school for family relations, child development, counseling, also became a teacher. So I've used my education my entire time. And I have counseled people throughout years and really been the encouragement and the one where everyone would turn to tell their story. Always. It doesn't matter whether I'm at the grocery store, I'm just out, hanging out in a park. Someone comes and just sits down, inevitably tells a story. So it's been a blessing to be in that. But as of a few years ago, almost 12, we lost our oldest son tragically in a car accident
Mm.
in February of 2014.
So
And our
sorry.
lives imploded.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we all died. And I think that that is really what everyone needs to recognize. There are some losses, and especially with people, because loss entails so much more than just a person. But the one here, when we lose someone, we too die. We need to acknowledge that we've died so that we can begin again. I will never ever be that mom, that person that I was in that season of my life. And I don't want to be, because he's not here.
Yeah.
And so, to work with our kids, work with my husband in the process of moving through that grief. And then we got to 2017, and the Lord really did call us to start a ministry, to really reach back, to be present for people, to help them breathe again, move again, and live again, from their trauma and their grief. And, we, in 2019, we had just gotten to the point, ladies, where we were starting to walk in that new identity. And then our second son was murdered with his girlfriend. And that was October of 2019. And we had to go through the process of acknowledging we have died yet again
Mm.
and start over the process.
Yeah.
I would say that that is a lot in a short time span,
Yeah.
Marcia. To me, that's the loss of a child. I don't ever want to be in that group. God, I hope that I never am in that club of people that have lost children. But when you were talking about kind of dying to self, when your first son died, it's almost like you're grieving the loss of your child, but you're also grieving the loss of who you were too,
The
right?
version of
Absolutely.
you
Version
that
of
you
you.
were, that
Be-
identity.
That
Yes,
identity, and
you're
that's a
grieving.
loss too that we don't talk
Yes.
about,
No, but we did in our family. We each lost the versions
right?
of ourselves. We also lost the version of our family that we were. See, there's multiple losses that happen when you lose, whether it's a
Yes.
child, a
Multiple layers.
husband, a mom, because there are layers. There are, exactly. And so you have to acknowledge you've lost that version, and that version's not going to be emerging again. A new version will come. And we have to be, I believe that grief is an exchange.
Mhm.
You have to release to receive. So I've got to be able to give, okay, I'm not going to
Mhm.
be this person ever again, nor do I want to. But also, I need to receive that I can be something new. I can be someone new, that from those ashes, there's newness to be birthed. And so I want to receive what is to be, not be held
Yeah.
in a space of what I'm never going to have again, but and I think there's a danger when we try to hold in that space, because we're not living among the living. We're now just dead among the dead. And I believe that's what we're faced with
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah.
dealing with that. And what I didn't tell you is in 2017 I lost my mother. And in those years in between, our marriage was really struggling because my husband, grief for him really impacted him in a way where he became disassociative and just not really present in the space in the way that he always had been. I think the good thing is we talked about our grieving process really on a daily basis because of the tools that I have. We would talk, where are you today from 1 to 5? Not how are you, because I hate that question when we're grieving, but where are you today from 1 to 5? Because that to me is a greater barometer of where someone is, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. So we would have these discussions. And again, the first couple of years, yes, things can be really, the changes and just trying to understand how do you normalize life after that. And so for him, that was still a process. But by the time we got to year 4, we're like, okay, I need you to kind of, we got to start stepping back in here. And because during that time, we also were in the midst of a major struggle with our youngest son who went into a deep depression. And so
Okay.
it was a very overwhelming time to one be, and my husband's always been fully in. So I'm really having to deal with my own grief He's not really the person I can talk to at this juncture because he's overwhelmed in his own grief, and I get that.
Sure.
But it went for such a long period of time, and I really made a very an intentional aspect of being present for my kids so that they knew that they could talk, but also if they needed more than what I could give, I said, we need to get you more help. Now, my kids didn't like that because my kids really like for me to be their point person. And I said, look, I know what I can do, but I also know what I can't. And so the boundary here is that these are the things I can right now, but the other things we have to source out because I too need to grieve and I need the space for me to be able to heal so I can be the person that you need as a mom again. And I need to be as a wife and as a person, because as you mentioned earlier, you lose your identity as to who you are because that person's no longer there in the schema of this particular relationship in place. So it's an unfolding all the way around. But the good news is it's also able to formulate into something new and to come and to evolve through the metamorphosis if we engage in the process, if we allow, and we're honest and I don't even like honesty. I'm going to say transparent because there's a difference in honesty and transparency. If we're transparent and we allow it to happen.
Yeah. Would you be willing to talk about some of the tools, whatever the ones that you feel are the most supportive of moving through that healing process with intention?
I think it involves the body, soul, mind, and spirit, every aspect of it. So with intention, and grief has a way of lie. There are things that come in to lie. They're thoughts that you have that are lies. But because you are grieving, you may have a propensity to believe it. So immediately when something would happen that my mind, a lie would come in, I would address the lie with what was true. And so because I'm really strong in my faith, I would go to the Word of God, or I would take authority over it and say, that's not true. And I'd speak it out loud. This is what's true. For an example, that the enemy took my son. Well, the enemy didn't take my son. Everybody has free will and accidents happen. The reality is my son's day and hour was already determined from before the foundations of the heaven and the earth. He didn't have anything to do with either of my sons leaving this place. But the lie is the enemy took your son, and the enemy's trying to have a place, a foundation to spring from, to take more of me and to deplete me. And so that's first and foremost, really knowing the truth versus a lie and really addressing them, because our greatest battle in grief is in the mind and body.
Yeah.
Because whatever the mind thinks and perceives, the body lines up with, and the body keeps the score. So if you're in negative thinking all day long, your body's in negative living.
Yeah.
If you're in positive alignment and you're positively living through the Word of God and you're breathing those with intention, the things He has for you, then your body, your organs are lining up with that. So, that's first and foremost. Secondly, get outside. You've got to get outside and reconnect to nature. There's something about death that what happens is people quite often separate themselves when and it can be, and death can be the death of dreams. It can be the death of a friendship. I mean, we're talking about any kind of death here. It can be a divorce. A divorce is a death. All of these things bring death. So when you need to get outside, you need to be out among the living, that which is having creation. Something's giving birth to something out there, because it does change. You start walking because your body needs that movement to start releasing what is already building up in there. And if it's not mobile, it just starts really honestly decaying in here. And so, that is another. Also having a gratitude. I would get up every day and start every day with gratitude. Even in the midst of the sorrow, depth of sorrow I felt, I would like, Lord, thank you that I was chosen to be his mom. Thank you for the memories. That, I mean, I would just have a list. Thank you for, and I would specifically speak those particular memories, because guess what? Now my body's lining up with what is true and something that was right, and that I'm thankful for, so that I can walk with that gratitude and begin my day. And I think also, not just in grief at the beginning, but in the end of the day, I always went back to gratitude. Always, because I don't think we can just start there. I think you got to start, you got to finish there. And so I think that's so essential. And so in the next aspect of that, to find the healthy ways that you need to express your grief. I'm going to tell you something. The Lord said you need to go dancing. Girls, I went dancing almost every week.
Did you really?
And yes, and my friends, my son's friends from law school, the girls would call and say, hey, let's go dancing. And I would go out with them and we would have an absolute blast. Now, am I grieving? Yes, but it was a way to release that was so bound in me. And my son who passed, we loved to dance together. So I thought, and it was so funny because the Lord's the one that told me to go dance. And I thought, this is so wild. Well, it was also a way to have those memories incorporated into my DNA as I'm moving around, and I'm thinking, wow, this is so, it's bringing back these great memories, but I'm also creating memories of living. And later down the road, I found out that dancing actually helps people who are in depression. It lifts their depression. It was like 87%. It was wild. I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, you knew when you told me that. But it was part of my healing. I also wrote. I dialogued out my feelings, and that's where the book came from. That really was my journaling of what was going on and processing from that pit of despair, but there's hope in the midst of that. So it's kind of like David. I would start out in this place of, oh my word, how am I going to get through this? And this is what I'm feeling. But then there's this hope that's kind of in the lining of this. So I want to focus on that. And then the other aspect of that is, I just asked the Lord, please show up for me. I want to see you every day in this. And he did. And I'd have my camera, and I'm not talking about my phone, I'm talking about my real camera. And I would get the most stunning pictures because he would show me things in correlation to my writings. So I put them together. And that's really what the book is. It's that God showed up in this place. This picture goes with the outcry of my heart because he hurt me. So people need to do things that are intentional, and to make sure they eat healthily, because most people want to go to the carbs and the sugars. Worst thing for you, because it really stagnates the grief, because things aren't moving. The liver already is getting sluggish. And if you have any anger or unforgiveness, that's in your liver, and your grief is going into your lungs. So we really want things to move. So drinking water, drinking, fresh green tea, whatever we need for you to have healthy living. And so these are the things we implemented in our life, but they're also things we encourage people to do, and to set really good boundaries. Sadly, people try to take advantage of people who are grieving. And it's usually close friends and family who all of a sudden want to come and borrow money or want to extrapolate something from you in this time. It happens over and over.
Did you experience that, Marcia? Did you experience?
My husband did, but we already had set these boundaries. But this man that my husband knew in a church that we were at wanted to borrow, and we had already sat down. This is so unbelievable. And I said, I just need everybody to know, if anybody asks for any money right now, we're not, because this is something, because I know this based on my training. So I'm telling my family, and my husband comes in, and this is probably several months later, and he goes, this man is asking me for money. And I looked at him, and he said, I know, it's no. And I said, yeah. He said, and so he went back, and the man went off and cussed him out because he wouldn't give him money. But he knew of the loss we had experienced.
I can't imagine being the kind of person who would be wanting to take from someone who was going through what your family was going through. That, like, I can't even I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Because we're not wired like that.
No.
We're not wired like that.
No, but I mean, think about it. Takers take.
Yeah.
And if
Takers take.
you are in a vulnerable position, the takers are going to find you, honey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got any friends that are takers or any family members or anybody that's just kind of watching and you're in one of the places, they're going to seek an opportunity. And let me tell you, I've heard it over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I had one man who lost like $67,000 to someone in his grieving because someone just kept giving. And I mean, so this is real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Well, and I can imagine when you're in such a fragile state of grief, you're not thinking clearly. And if you don't have those boundaries in place, secured, you could easily, I could see, I'm just thinking about it, putting myself in that position. You've already gone through this loss, you're in the throes of it, and you're feeling like you're doing something good for somebody. You're trying to see some good in your day, and giving is always where it starts, right? We get our minds off of ourselves and onto others. So I can imagine how people would easily fall into that trap. But I never.
And the sad thing is, and you're right, and here's the reality, because you're already so fractured in so many places.
Right.
You want to feel like what you're doing is really making a difference.
Right.
Well, and there's also talking about mindset. And Gina and I talk often about how the mindset that you're in, your life is going to reflect back to you the mindset that you've chosen, and everything that you were talking about, Marcia, in terms of body, mind, and spirit. And it's not enough to just close yourself indoors and marinate in your grief. You have to raise the vibration of your body and change it with intentionally choose your mindset in every single day, connecting with spirit so that you have that faith to pull on. Gina and I talk about it all the time. And if someone isn't being intentional about their grieving process, the pit of despair that they are in is going to allow them to be in alignment with those types of experiences of being taken advantage of and being further wounded.
Have a negative mindset.
Marcia, I have so many questions and many comments, and I'm sitting here trying to pick and choose what the best ones are to not take advantage of your time.
Yeah.
But what you were saying, we have talked about grief on this show a lot. We have talked with guests about grief on this show a lot. And I have to give you so much credit, because your perspective that you are bringing is probably the most well-rounded toolbox for how to process through grief that I have ever heard. Because you're right, it is so critically important that people are being intentional about both body, mind, and spirit. You even talked about the liver being the storage for anger and the lungs being storage for grief. You don't even know this, but I was a licensed acupuncturist for many years. I have a master's in traditional Chinese medicine. And 4,000 years ago in ancient China, they knew that all disease, including the emotional conditions that people get stuck in, are the result of emotional wounding.
That's
the
right.
result of the 7 emotions.
Yeah.
And so people can be eating the very best diet they can possibly eat and making the most physically healthy choices they can make. But if they are not addressing their emotional states as well, disease will still take hold. And I've seen that in my own practice. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen people who I've had recent conversations with people who were blessed to have come from parents who back in the 60s and 70s were super healthy hippies, and they didn't inject their children with poison. They didn't feed their children poison. They lived extremely healthy lifestyles. And yet this person still ended up developing a chronic disease in the future because of unhealed wounds. So,
That's right.
gosh, you incorporating mindset and faith and taking care of your physical body into the grieving toolbox is so
It's profound.
it is it's game changing for people who think that it's much simpler than that.
Right. Well, in the back of the brain is where the amygdala
Correct.
stores all the trauma,
Correct.
which our emotions contribute to what's in the amygdala. And so we don't respond. We're reacting now out of trauma.
Correct.
And so in what I do as a heart sync minister and a heart healer is we go in to deal with all negative emotions that are blocking and preventing this one from returning to joy.
At the Why of It All, we are passionate about healing mind, spirit, and body. And that's why we're proud to be sponsored by a brand whose passion for wellness runs as deep as ours, Tulip Blooms. Tulip Blooms is a family-owned American small business that crafts premium skincare products with intention, purity, and so much heart. Every product is handcrafted in small batches with 100% organic, natural, cruelty-free ingredients, formulated to nourish, soothe, rejuvenate, and support your skin's natural vitality. They offer lotions, body butter, facial serums, artisan soaps, and candles, and even hair and beard oil for the guys. Whether you're looking to deeply hydrate, rejuvenate, or simply love your body with a bit more ritual pampering, Tulip Blooms delivers high-vibe care you can feel good about because it's skincare rooted in nature, backed by integrity, and made with love. When you shop small, every purchase supports a dream and makes a real difference in the lives of a real family. Tulip Blooms is more than just a skincare company. They're part of a healing movement, and your purchase helps to keep that movement growing. Visit tulipblooms.shop and use our exclusive promo code HEAL, that's HEAL, at checkout for a sweet discount of 10% off your order.
And I actually address the parts of the body where those emotions go into.
So can you tell us, when you're working with a client doing this work, because I'm interested personally, how does that session look? Like, are you talking to them? Are you asking them to tune into their body? Where do they feel the stagnation? Like, how does a typical session like that look with you?
Well, heart sync or heart healing in and of itself is really about addressing the four parts, which is function, true self, emotion, and guardian.
Okay.
So if we go to the brain, true self is right front brain, emotion is in the right brain, function, which is your everyday get up, have your cup of coffee, brush your teeth, it's routine, is in your left brain. And with the guardians to guard your heart. But when we talk about emotion, we're also talking about that which is stored within the amygdala. So we want to make sure that you're understanding all of these things have parts of the brain that actually correlate to each part of the fractured parts of the heart. So we're going in and addressing each of those. And so with emotion, what our conversation would be is I would just say, honey, could you just tell me some of the emotions that you're feeling? Well, emotions love to share. And they'll say, well, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I feel unworthy, I feel guilt, I feel shame. I'm hearing it and I'm just writing them all down. Some of them just like it's a verbal vomit. They're so glad someone asked. They're just Others, you have to really let them know, hey, I really do want to know because they've been suppressed. Someone hasn't wanted to hear them. They've been shut down. So it's loving on those parts so they know that you have a safe space right now. And I bring them into the presence of Father, Jesus, Holy Spirit. They actually visualize coming into that space. And as an emotional part, let's say it is anger comes in that place. And anger is correlated with the liver. And a lot of times they may say they've had some physical problems that have correlated with their liver being slushy, having issues with bowel movement, different things because it's not filtering properly because this anger is causing issues. So we get into the presence and I'll say to this part, and I'll say, anger, could you ask the Father or Jesus, what would life look like if you no longer held on to this? And it could be any number of things that he speaks, but he'll say freedom.
Yeah.
And the part says, he said freedom. And I said, well, how would you feel about living in freedom? I would really like that. Well, would you like to release that over to him? And they physically, emotionally release that over, giving it and releasing all the memories, the situations, the people that have been connected to that part. any traumatic events. Mhm.
Yeah.
And now it's being received by the Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. And all of a sudden they're like, I feel so light.
Mm.
Like I don't have this weight on me anymore. And I said, well, sweetie, you have an entity that has come on you, that has really caused, that has lied to that part, told that part, do you want to keep or sever it? They want to sever it. So we go in and sever. And we sever it from the part, but we also sever it from generational and from vows. Because quite often when people are sick, they start speaking vows. I'll never. I'm always. Oh my word, stop saying that. Say I'm always going to be healed. Say I'm always going to feel nourished and strengthened. Do not say I will always be this. And it's a sickness or some sense of depravity of just a mindset in your life that you're just attaching yourself to.
The one that I hear most often is fill in the blank is killing me.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And so guess what? It is going to continue to
kill you.
Continue to kill. So then we go in and I said, so your liver, and in the process of releasing, I say, and the liver, so I go into the body part while we're releasing people. I'll say, and I want in the body for the liver to release the anger it's been holding.
Yeah.
So it's all, it's from the brain, it's from within the heart, the emotion and the mind and the body. And then the spirit is able to fill this part up so it can live in its created design.
I love it.
Where before it was hijacked and it really thought it was doing a service to this individual.
Sure.
And that's what I say to them. I say, sweetie, you were hijacked and really you've been hurting Melanie or Gina. They really, you're not helping them, but you have so much that you can give in this space.
Yeah.
So it's really, they're very much a part. Nothing happens without their permission.
Yeah. I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
No, keep going.
So I lost a child at 34 weeks pregnant. And my husband and I entered into that grieving process after having lost that child with intention. We found out at 20 weeks that it was going to be a terminal pregnancy. We traveled all over the country trying to find a solution and then finally found out that there wasn't going to be one. So we had a heads up about it. And it was during the brief period of the heads up that we sort of came to terms with the inevitability. And then after the loss, we went into that grieving process with intentionality. But we didn't necessarily have the toolbox that you're talking about. I hadn't learned as much about healing then as I know now. But what we did do is that we allowed ourselves every single day, when the grief would come up, we allowed ourselves to feel the feelings, as opposed to stuffing, cramming and jamming, ignoring, distracting ourselves from them. We felt the feelings and we would allow that to occur. And maybe it looked like crying in the parking lot, or maybe it looked like hiding in a back room for a little while, but we allowed it to come up however that looked, scream crying, whatever. But the moment we would feel the intensity begin to subside, it was sort of like there was a welling up, there was a release, and then it was like okay, it's out, sort of like the valve is released, and then the intensity of steam begins to dwindle. That's enough. And we would allow ourselves to then say, okay, that's enough, and now I move on with my day. And anytime it would come up, that would be the process we would go through. And in our case, and having wonderful support systems around us, using our spirituality to support us through those moments, for us, it was shocking how quickly we moved through the grieving process to get to the point where we were ready genuinely to try again for another child. And thankfully had a beautiful baby girl shortly thereafter. I'm interested in if allowing oneself to feel the feelings is a part of your toolbox, or if in your case, do you guide people to focus on the positive all the time?
No, it's very much a part. One of the things we have is called scheduled grieving.
Ooh.
We encourage people to schedule grieving. It's part of Yes, because some people suppress.
Mm-hmm.
So what we tell
Yep.
people is what we'd like for you to do. Because what we really encourage is if you're feeling an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
let it out, release it in that moment, allow yourself to feel it, acknowledge it,
Mhm.
Yes.
give space to it,
Yes.
acknowledge it,
Yes.
because it will help you move quicker through your grief in the confounding aspect of that grief. And then when you're done, what we tell people is when you're finished, then we tell them after that, start giving thanks for something, because we want you to come back in a
Mhm.
place of joy,
Mm-hmm.
even though you've released.
Mhm.
And then for scheduled grieving, what we tell people is we'd like for you every day to schedule grieving, go in and just allow yourself, if you need to play some worship music or just some soaking music so that you can let out all of that built up grief, to go in for 20, 30 minutes, and then, but set a time
Mm-hmm.
to where when you acknowledge that valve's gone, and we say, you'll tell, don't keep going any further,
Mhm.
stop, and then start giving praise and giving thanks, and then exit out. And so we have people that do have grieving sessions where we tell them daily, we want you to do this,
Mm.
because
I
it
love
really,
that.
some people have to have scheduled grieving.
Mhm.
It really, because they
Mhm.
need for their mind to know, okay, at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock every night. And we really try to tell people to do it before the evening. That's the other thing I want to say. And the reason why is because your mind starts getting trapped in places, and we don't want to start something at night when really we're wanting your body to start slowly settling down.
Winding.
We don't want to get your cortisol levels up, because crying, emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and grief do get your cortisol. So we're trying to keep you in a state of calm. So we really tell people, do it earlier in the day if you can, even if it's your lunchtime
Mm-hmm.
and you're at work, go get in your car, and if you need to, turn on whatever and just let yourself, and then come back out of it. And I will tell you, you hit on the fact, I think one of the reasons why we were able to step into ministry, I was able to move towards through my grief easier because of all the tools that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And when our second son passed, we were able as a whole family to move together because everyone had learned these tools, and to be able to appropriate each one and use them in those given spaces was so helpful. And it is what people need to have ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm a big believer we need to have these conversations, and people need to start understanding their tools I can have in my toolbox now.
Yeah.
And I can be very intentional to have them so I can start, when I need them, and start dealing with the losses that they haven't really acknowledged
Right.
in their life.
Well, it's funny because Melanie knows I'm a crier, so I release the valve all the time. I mean, I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm grateful. I'm just a crier. It's just innate in me. I'm just a super emotional person, and I was having a hard time around the holidays, and I called my mom. And, she comes from the old school, she's 81. And so I'm calling her and I'm crying. And she's like, how long have you been crying? And I'm like, Mom, just, I don't know, 10 minutes. And she's like, you've got to stop crying. Stop crying.
Mm.
And I stopped her. And I know it's coming from a place of love. She doesn't like to see me hurting, right? But I told her, I said, Mom, this is a form of release for me.
Mhm.
I need to get this out, because once I get it out, once I scream and cry and blow my nose and pat my eyes dry, I feel better. And for me, I know, and I have enough knowledge that for me, I need to cry. I need to get it out. It is
Yes.
a purification for me. And I just wish more people would let themselves go there, because you do move through it faster. You do. If you just.
Well, you do, but not everybody can cry. So
I know.
running is really good. There's some other things that we tell people that are not the criers,
Yes.
because some people like that's just not.
Yeah.
So, to go run, to go take a run, and in the run, we do diaphragmatic breathing. We help people know it's 5, 6, 7, breathe
Yes.
in, hold for 6, exhale. But in that, what we say is when you are breathing in, we want you to breathe in the newness of life. But in the exhale, we want you to identify that emotion that you're feeling and see it releasing in your breath. Let the toxin go out with it. Visualize it from within your body whatever part you're feeling within your lungs, within your gut, because people have a lot of gut imbalance after they have grief come in, and start releasing, but watch it leave and then receive the newness, the life back in those places and in that emotional part.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think what's important to also recognize for the people in our lives who either have a different way of moving through their own grief if they are affected by the same grief that you are, or the people who are, several steps removed from it and they're just, friends, associates, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Many people find it very, very difficult to hold space for someone else's grieving process.
Yes.
You being in a state of grief makes them feel uncomfortable, so they aren't self-aware enough to realize that what they're doing is shutting down your process.
Right.
They just need their own discomfort to stop, and their own discomfort requires you
Stopping.
acting, appearing,
Stop
being not as upset as you are.
Yeah.
And recognizing that they're not doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
They just perhaps either don't have the emotional intelligence to know how to support you through that process, or they're dealing with their own unhealed wounds.
Right.
And your
But I
experience
do want to
triggers
interject.
them.
Yeah, but I want to interject here. Then you need to separate yourself from those people at this time, because it becomes an inhibition for you to be able to be
Process.
who you need to be in this season and to be able to express yourself the way you should.
Yes.
I really encourage people to find their community.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I tell grievers, you get to choose who gets to walk in this space with you. Everyone doesn't get to come in and speak.
No.
And when people would come in and speak in us, and what you have to do is you have to really make sure that anyone who says anything that you didn't invite in, you let it bounce off.
Mm-hmm.
It is not personal to you.
That's right.
It usually, Gina, is about their own unhealed issues and the fact that they're uncomfortable in your grief.
Yes.
And so you don't want to take that on. Yes, it's a great point.
It's a great point, Melanie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just think that you're right. That behavior sometimes makes people uncomfortable, and that's okay. But you don't have to confide in them about what you're going through at that moment.
No.
You know,
Maybe you call somebody else.
Call somebody else. Like,
Yes. Yeah. But when those people that they think they should be, and they're like, well, how's your family? What's going on? Well, and I actually said to one friend, I said, you know what? You're asking me way too many questions that I'm not comfortable talking about.
and you're just not.
And when I'm ready, I'll tell you, but I'm just not right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not everybody's okay doing that. I do think, that's an exception, but I think we have to be able to convey to us. And I don't want to hear your platitudes. So for people who would say platitudes, I really would remove myself from them, because that's not, it goes back to G, that's helping them because they're uncomfortable, but it's not helping me.
Right.
Such a good point, and why advocating for yourself and setting those boundaries like you talked about, Marcia, is so, so important.
I've been holding on to this, but I want to go back. I want to touch on something about your gratitude. And I don't know if you actually have a gratitude journal or if you're just speaking these things, but what I kept thinking, and I do want to go back to your first son's passing in that tragic accident. And I lost my father 3 years ago in 22, and that's been a very, very painstaking process for me, that grief process. I'm really a lot better, even in the last few months, than I've been since he died. But what I kept having to bring my mind back to is, yes, this tragic thing happened to your son. Yes, my father got super sick, and we had to watch him suffer. But what I always go back to, and what is beautiful, is that your son's life is not defined by that accident.
No.
Your son's life is all those years of the growing up and the sports and the Christmases and when you can step out of we're all going to die, right? We're all going to die. We're all going to go there. This is all a process.
Yes.
We're all birthed, and we're all going to die. And so for me, I had to tell myself, I'm so grateful that I had my dad until he was 80. I'm so grateful that I had all my high school years. He got to see me get married one time. He got to see me. He got to see my son. He got to pick him up from school every day. I would intentionally not define those last 4 months of his life, because that wasn't him. He was sick. He was sick. And when I think back to his last birthday that we all celebrated, his 80th birthday, that's his life.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Well, yes. And it's interesting because people would want me to tell them about the accidents. And I would say, well, I'd love to tell you about his life.
Yeah.
Because the accident is not really about my son. It's an event. It's something that happened.
Yes.
And we've moved, and that's beyond. I mean, and it may have taken him out of this life, but that's not who he is. So I choose to do like you and think on who he is. And I'd rather tell you about him. Just like when my son was murdered, people wanted to ask, and I said, here's the reality. There's nothing else to talk about. I'd love to share stories with you. We can go back and talk about memories and things, but it is what is.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, so you ladies know, that court case just happened a month ago. It's been 6 years.
Wow. Finally some closure with that? Or
I didn't need closure. Closure had already happened for me.
Okay.
But yes, I think for the families, the other families and individuals, because people need different things in this journey. And for those families, yes.
Yeah.
We were not waiting. We were not hinged on that moment happening. I know I have a just God, and he would make just what needs to be just, whether it's here on this earth or not.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm focusing on the truth of who my son is, the life of my son, not on one moment in life that could have come in and succumbed me into a place of death and robbed me of living my life the last 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I love that you shared about your dad, because your dad has imprinted on you, and your dad gets incorporated here to come forward with you. And that's what I'm hearing you say, that your dad now is coming in the space of moving forward, because you're really focusing on the sweet memories and the beauty of what you had as a daughter with a father, and that he got to cherish those moments. Yeah. And it's okay. You should cry. I think that this is good, because we're talking about things that are dear to the heart.
Yeah.
And he's dear to your heart, and this is fresh. It's still fresh because you missed him at the holidays. I mean, the reality is,
what's funny, Marcia, is that right before you said that he's here, I felt his presence as we're having this conversation. So it was just confirmation that he is here. Maybe not in physical form, but every day I live my life to honor him in whatever way that looked like that day. It could be something small, like bringing some flowers to my mom. It could look like picking my son up and getting him to his appointments. I mean, I honor him. I do my very best every day. He is a part of me. He made me.
Well, he is, but also he's cheering over you, honey. It says they're cheering. He's cheering. I mean, he is, they're the greatest cheerleaders that we have. And, the one thing people don't talk about, because it's so taboo, is how the veil is so thin when someone passes. And the veil is thin.
It's very thin.
And there is a physical presence, and there's a spiritual presence that I feel of both of my sons within me. And it is just an amazing strength that comes with that. And I see that in you as you're sharing. And I felt your dad's presence with us, by the way.
100. And after he died, I have so many experiences of him literally being the veil being very thin right after he and I
here.
I mean certain things and people could brush off as whatever, that's just no, I'm sorry. No. That was my dad protecting me.
Yep.
That was my father, the red cardinal that flew right when I was about to have a head-on collision. The red cardinal flew. That was my dad. I'm sorry. You will never convince me otherwise. And I think if you're in tuned to the spirit and to the spirit world, and knowing that those loved ones are going to be welcoming you with open arms when you're ready. And also, Marcia, my father's death made me not scared to die. It made me release that fear, because I'm going to be with him again. And for me, I don't want to leave my loved ones here. I don't want to leave my son and my loved ones. But if I go tomorrow, I will be reunited with.
That's right.
And so there's this piece of, boy, I can't wait to see him again, right? It's like this, I can't wait. And I mean, yes, I want to live out my purpose here, but I'm not scared anymore.
No.
Good.
Well, I'm not either. And my kids weren't. I mean, I have to say, we really talked I did try to train my kids for grieving and death because of my own life experiences. And my first son had his entire life celebration all planned out because he did know he was going to die before we did.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't scared of that. He really, I mean, that was a lot for a young person, but he
Yes,
knew.
that's
And the
so
Lord had
intuitive.
confirmed it over and over to me, to our family. So even with that, yes. And that's a whole nother story,
Yeah.
honestly. But
Yeah.
it's amazing. And
So this whole conversation is incredible.
Oh.
I've had goosebumps like 37 times already. When my son passed, talking about the thinness of the veil,
yes.
I had a conversation with him afterwards, and in at that stage of where we were at, it was very shortly after he passed. It comes up of why me? Why did this happen to me, right? And he came in and said very, very clearly in no uncertain terms to me, I never intended to be in the body. I came through for you. This is for you. And something that Gina and I talk about on our show over and over and over again, and we will continue to talk about it over and over and over again, probably in every single episode from now into perpetuity, is that nothing happens to us. Everything happens for us. There is a divine blueprint for our life.
Yes.
And
yes.
each one of these experiences we go through gives us the reference points to fulfill our purpose. And so for you, Marcia, I think that anybody having gone through at minimum 17 losses, it sounds like there was more thereafter and you just kind of stopped counting. I think a lot of people would get very much stuck in the why me? Why is this happening to me? Why was this the cards that I was dealt? Marcia, why do you think this blueprint was laid out for you? How has this experience served you? And I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from your perspective.
Well, first of all, it has driven me so deeply into the Father's heart. And honestly, I think all that happens, that's a door for us to all go deeper into his presence and to allow him to love us more fully and reveal himself more deeply to us. And I have felt that. And I look at my own life and, I've had people say, wow, you've just had deaths around you. Well, if we read scripture, there's death all throughout scripture. And I knew scripture growing up, and I had a relationship and probably around middle school. Well, actually, even earlier than that, I was in elementary. But I think for me, because he knew the plans, in fact, I don't think, he knew the plans he had. He knew that in him, that I would be able to love well, and that there needed to be people that were lovers of those who were hurt and wounded and traumatized, that someone else could not stand with them. And it wasn't just the death, but I also was bullied throughout my entire growing up years. And so to understand that isolation, to be left out, when you're grieving, you can be left out. So I believe my Father has used all those things to really embolden me to be able to serve in the place that he already planned and prepared. And he's just opened this up for me to be able to have an opportunity to be on holy ground in the holy places with people like you ladies who have shared your own losses, because this is holy. When you're sharing your own losses, you've opened up a part of your life that really is for people to be invited, and for someone to invite me into that, I take it very seriously. Because they're unpacking their greatest treasure or treasures with me. So I feel like that's why he did that. And I consider it to be an honor to serve him in this place. And again, I don't know why he chose me to be able to do this, but I see how he is using all things for him to bring heaven here on earth to bring healing to those that he just loves so dearly.
And you wouldn't have been presented with these challenges if it wasn't known already that you could handle them.
Well, I believe that. And I do
Mhm.
think that some people, though, refuse and deny those opportunities
Yeah.
in their life, sadly,
Right.
when situations come. And we have to say yes. I mean, really, you have to go,
do.
yes, because saying yes is a commitment. And I'm not being glib about that. Saying yes is that I am committed that once I do say this, I'm going to be intentional to keep pursuing this. And there may be some pain in the process of this. And there is.
There is.
But there's also this purification process that is so incredible. And so, I mean, someone said to me, I guess it was about a year and a half after Sterling had been gone, I know you would do anything to have him back. And I looked and I said, no, I would not. I would not change where I am because of how much I know the Father loves me and where I have been taken. And I know my son would not want to come back. He would not have wanted to come back. He is where he was created to be. And one day I will be in that place. And until then, the Father and myself and Sterling all can share the same space spiritually because we all believe in the Lord. But I've had my own experience of the veil being undone for me. And very quickly after he passed. And it really changed me.
And it's such a beautiful reminder. I just love that you're reminding me, us, our listeners, that there's really not a lot of distance between that spiritual world and us.
And Marcia, you have been our ideal guest because we love to bring people on who have been through extraordinary adversity and have then used their life experience and the reference points that they gained from it to give back to humanity in a meaningful way. And my God, are you an example of that? Is there anything else that you would like to offer our listeners as a closing thought?
Well, I just want to remind your listeners that if they're in a season of grief or if they've not dealt with grief, that it is essential for their mental, emotional, spiritual, and soul health. And that they can breathe again and move again and live again in their created design. And to not let grief have the final word because it was never meant to.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Tell everybody how to find you.
You can find me on www.thesterlingrosesanctuary.us. And you can get my book on Amazon. It's Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief. And the reason why it's .us is because it takes us as a community to bring people back in and to live the way that they were created to live. So I would love for everyone to really, today when you hear this, think of someone that you need to extend yourself in that community to love well and be a part of their grief story and to help them know that you're just present. You're not asking, you're not needing to give them any advice, but you're just present with them.
And that's all we really want, right? Is somebody else's presence. That really is what it boils down to. Just their presence and just their body sitting there, even if they don't have all the answers, right?
Well, they don't need to even try to have an answer.
Right.
Honestly, I tell people to be quiet.
Yes.
We don't need to talk. I can just come and sit with you.
Yeah.
And we don't need to really talk, just to have someone present in that space where you just know she's here.
She's here.
He's here. It's good. And we're just good. I can just sit with you.
Well, Marcia,
It's good.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story because it's profound and the tools that you have shared as well are immediately useful for people. So we will be sure to share all of your links in the show description. If anybody is looking for that, just go straight down below. That will be there. Folks, if you have enjoyed this conversation, please go down and whatever platform you're on, if you haven't already subscribed and followed our channel, hit that button. If you're on a platform where there's a little like button for this episode,
Hit it.
that is the very best way to support our show, is just hit the button. It's the positive affirmation button.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
We'll see you
you.
on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.